Lucille, stop it! Do we have to do this? Must we?
Yes. You have no idea what they'd do. I would be taken from here. Locked away. You would be hanged. We stay together. Never apart. You couldn't leave me. You wouldn't.
I can't. I can't.
I know.
And that's a clip from Crimson Peak. It stars Tom Hiddleston. Tom, nice to see you again. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me.
Very welcome back to the programme.
Thank you.
So last time you were on, which was 3 years ago, we were talking Marvel-based
That's true,
stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's Sir Thomas Sharpe. I just love your clothes. I don't know what happens to the clothes at the end. Can you choose to keep them sometimes, you know, if you love the clothes than the outfits that you've been wearing? Because you play this kind of like, you're like Byron, like Rochester, you know, 1901, the clothes of a gentleman. Just explain who Sir Thomas Sharpe is and whether you get to keep his clothes.
Well, Sir Thomas Sharpe, as you meet him, is an English gentleman who you find in the New World in Buffalo, New York, and he's elegant and mysterious and charismatic, and the society men and women of the East Coast in America are drawn to his British mystery. And he is a figure of, he's very much in the figure of the Byronic silhouette. And he's an engineer. He's a young dreamer who hopes of being a great Victorian industrialist. He's an inventor, and he's come to raise sponsorship for his new clay mining machine as the primary inheritor of a big old house in the north of England called Allerdale Hall, which sits on Crimson Peak. And it's called Crimson Peak because of the clay that the house sits on. And Kate Hawley, our costume designer, did a really extraordinary thing, was that she wanted Thomas Sharpe's clothes to have the elegance of actually being very well made, but 30 years ago. So that they weren't they weren't modern clothes for 1901. They were actually sort of late 19th century clothes. So that he has this sort of something that the Americans read as this old world class. But also when you find out more about him, you find out that actually the family is very impoverished, and they're kind of, the weight of his inheritance is oppressive, both physically in terms of the house he lives in, and psychologically in terms of his past.
So just to pick you up on one thing, is the Byronic silhouette, is that a thing? Is that a well-known? Is that an actorly thing?
No, sorry. It was something that I misremember. Kate Hawley, this extraordinary costume designer from New Zealand who Guillermo works with. When I met her, I signed on to the film on a Thursday, and by Friday I'd had a costume fitting, and she'd given me all these mood boards essentially that she'd put together of different images, and one of them was Byron, that very famous portrait. And also there was another one, do you know the painting by Caspar David Friedrich called Wander Above a Sea of Fog?
No, but I would like you to explain it.
It is very evocative, and what you see is it's actually a kind of tempestuous storm. It always makes me think of the Lake District. And it's the back of a man standing in a frock coat or a tailcoat on a rock in front of a lake or in front of the ocean in the middle of a huge stormy sky, and there's huge power and it's a very moody image, and at the same time very British, and it's about sort of man in being humbled by the scale of the land and the weather, but also there's an elegance and a power to the way he's standing on this rock, and we thought that was very, very much in the tone of Thomas Sharpe.
Guillermo del Toro, who's the director you mentioned already, has described this as a gothic romance first,
yes,
and a ghost story second.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I think most people will think of it as obviously, I think it's the other way around, really. I think of it as a ghost story. Just explain to us a little bit about the story. I want to ask you about Guillermo, but just the overall story. It is a ghost story, isn't it? It's like it's a horror story at times.
Well, if Guillermo were here, he would say it's a love story with ghosts in it. And Mia Wasikowska, who plays the heroine, is a young writer. And she, at the beginning of the film, she's writing a novel herself, and she wants to publish it. And she says it's a love story with ghosts in it. And in a way, that's Guillermo's voice coming out through the film. I think essentially what it is it's a Gothic romance in terms of its structure. So anyone who's read any Gothic romance, whether it's Jane Eyre or Northanger Abbey or Wuthering Heights or The Fall of the House of Usher, The Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe, there is always a young, pure-hearted, innocent heroine who's drawn to a tall, dark stranger. And usually by her sexuality, there's a love story in there. But around the corner is the threat of violence and the fear of death. And Gothic romance was the first literary genre to actually invent the idea of the supernatural, of ghosts not being some sort of demonic representation of a Judeo-Christian polarity between heaven and hell, but actually that ghosts were somehow emotions locked in time. That they could be, ghosts were explained in terms of unprocessed emotional pain. And so that's really why Guillermo wants it to be seen as a Gothic romance, because the elements of the love story and the ghost story are interwoven together.
Yeah. So when we see you for the first time, and it's like there's a sort of a Spandau Ballet thing going on in your I think. Anyway, but instantly, we don't trust you. I mean, maybe the Americans are swooning, but you've got that absolutely right. So you're beautiful and you're charming, and your voice is fantastic, and you can imagine a lovelorn anybody just being swept off their feet. But I think the Brits in the audience would go, no, he's
wouldn't
no good.
touch him with a barge pole.
Partly, no, just again, and explain Jessica Chastain. She's your sister, and she's looking so terrifying right from the first time that we see her. We kind of know that something's not right. So just explain where you guys come from and what you're doing in America in the first place. So
yes, Thomas. I play Thomas Sharp, and my sister Lucille is played by Jessica Chastain, and we are clearly fish out of water. You know, we're in this new world of progress and industry and sunshine that Mia represents. Thomas and Lucille they have dark hair and pale skin and dark clothes, and they're clearly from this older, darker world. And Jessica's character, initially, she just is so imposing. She's so threatening, and she has such a formidable presence. And you realize that there's something very unnerving about these two siblings, that they have an ulterior motive, and there's something unsettling about them. And it's only when Thomas Sharp, my character, marries Edith, Mia's character, and they all go decamp back to the north of England to the big house. You realise the big house is full of ghosts and and some other terrifying things.
And other terrifying things.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to explain too much of the story.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it.
Spoiling the things. And anyone who's seen any of Guillermo del Toro's movies will know that he's very good at making scary things.
Yes.
And he's been on the show, and we've talked about him a lot. Mark's a huge fan, thinks Pan's Labyrinth is probably one of the greatest films ever. What is it like to work with Guillermo as a director? What does he expect from you?
Well, it's interesting because when he pitched the film to me, he said he wanted to make, for the first time, a film in the English language that felt like his Spanish language films. He said he felt like since Pan's Labyrinth, he which is in Spanish, he had never worked in English in this way, dealing with adult material in a very specific and designed world.
He said that he first spotted you when you were with Kenneth Branagh in Wallander on the television, which seems to me, of all the gigs that you've done, what an auspicious moment that was.
I know. It was obviously it was a turning point.
It was only a small role, but he says he recognised the doomed look that you had, which actually you have in this movie as well. But just think, so there's Ken Branagh. You worked with him, of course. And what a great show to get on. Yeah,
it was great. I remember the moment. It was a long time ago now. And the first screenplay of Wallander I read, my character Magnus Martinson was described as an overgrown golden retriever. So I don't know what that means or whether I succeeded, but it led me to reading Henning Mankell's extraordinary Swedish police thrillers. I found them incredibly atmospheric, and I had a really good time making them. Actually, I have very fond memories of the shoot. We were out in Sweden for 2 successive seasons, so 3 months at a time, and obviously introduced me to Kenneth Branagh, who changed my working life by casting me as Loki. I mean, he really nothing's been the same since then, and I also find him he continues to inspire me the way he approaches work and life.
Yes, he's one of our favourite guests on the programme as well. He's got a great chuckle.
He does, yes. He's a very good giggler.
Yes,
you never want to be on stage with him when he gets the giggles. By the way, he'll leave you standing.
More Loki.
I don't know, honestly. I wish I had something concrete to tell you. I know the guys at Marvel.
Because there's more Thor.
I think so, but that nobody. I don't know. I just don't know what's happening. I don't know who's directing that. I haven't seen a script.
Okay. Well, one thing that is definite, just in our few minutes that we have left, is Hank Williams.
Yes, the Hank Williams.
And I was watching you this morning. I was watching you on stage with Rodney Crowell, the great Rodney Crowell.
Yep.
What a great country artist he is.
Yes,
I think we're sort
indeed.
of telling you how to be Hank Williams. I mean, obviously actors do this all the time, but how do you? I mean, is there any kind of resentment among them? Hank Williams, maybe the first rock star.
Yes.
Really, what an extraordinary life. And the movie is on the way. Tell us just a little bit about playing Hank Williams.
Well, honestly, it was...
And the fact you can sing and you're a country star.
I don't know about that. Well, that remains to be seen. But Hank Williams was one of the most... playing him was one of the most challenging and fulfilling things I've ever done. Because there was so much about his experience which felt remote to me. He was, he's born in Alabama in 1923. Yeah, so he was a teenager in the wake of the Depression. He had spina bifida, which he didn't find out about until much later in life. And he had a hard Southern, all-American upbringing. And he sang about what he knew, which was chasing girls and feeling lonesome. And he had a terrible drinking problem. And he was, I think, the first rock star in the sense that he sang about what he knew, and he sang from his heart, and the people and he had obviously had this extraordinary charisma as a performer, and I think he changed the landscape of American music. He infused popular music with the traditions of the blues, and inspired the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, Johnny Cash. People really tipped their hat to Hank.
Is that quite nervous? Are you quite nervous about how you'll be received? I mean, when you went, so I see you on stage at the Wheatland Music Festival in Michigan.
Yeah, that was hilarious because I went. Rodney was hired as the executive musical director of the film, and I said to him, if I was playing an athlete, if I was playing a sprinter, I would ask someone, how often do I need to run every day and how far? And I said, Rodney, you've got to tell me how often I need to play and what kind of thing and how many hours a day. It's practice, practice, practice. And he said, just come and stay with me in Nashville just before we start for about a month. We'll just get into it. And I arrived in Nashville, and as a working musician, he said, oh, Tommy boy, I forgot to tell you, I got to head up to Michigan for a couple of days to play this gig up at a festival right there. So I figure you just come on the road with us and see what it's like to be in a band. And I was like, great, this would be great. This would be so fun. I'll get to see what it's like to be in a traveling band. It was like some kind of dream come true in a way. And then we were on our way to the festival and we were playing Move It On Over, which I think is one of Hank's great songs. And he said, hey, Tom, I figure we should just get you up on that stage. How'd you feel about that? I was like, I barely touched the ground.
Thanks for the warning.
American soil, and suddenly I was playing "Move It On Over" in front of 20,000 people, and it was, as he said, a baptism by fire.
Well, it's a fantastic clip, and I'm really looking forward to I Saw the Light. I'm so glad that we got you to do a voice as well, which is a part of every Tom Hiddleston interview. I Saw the Light is on the way, but Crimson Peak is new out. Tom playing Sir Thomas Sharp. Tom, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me, Simon. Appreciate it.